Let's make a comparison. You see where I'm getting at this? This is the new cover-up.
Richard Southern joins us to chat about some of the day's most interesting stories, including some explosive new revelations about UFOs, Richard.
Yeah, this was really big, Erica. For the first time in some 60 years today, the U.S. Congress held public hearings into the matter of UFOs. It comes 11 months after the Pentagon released a report that detailed 140 incidents of U.S. military aircraft observing UFOs that they couldn't explain. Now, the two witnesses at this hearing today were the Undersecretary of Defense in the United States and the Deputy Director of U.S. Naval Intelligence. Erica, they showed us a new video shot by a Navy pilot. Take a look.
What are we observing?
What you see here is aircraft that is operating in a U.S. Navy training range that has observed spherical object. It looks reflective in this video, somewhat reflective, and it quickly passes by the cockpit of the aircraft. I do not have an explanation for what this specific object is.
So you might say, Richard, that's just another blurry video, but two things to consider. First of all, the source. This is coming from the U.S. government. They don't know what it is, number one. Number two, this is the public hearing. There was a classified one after this. If that's what the public's being shown, imagine what the classified version is. Now, both these officials, they chose their words carefully, including the question of possible extraterrestrial origin, which they say they haven't ruled out. They say the number of UFO incidents involving U.S. personnel has now grown to 400, and there has been, they say, 11 near misses.
The department is fully committed to the principle of openness and accountability to the American people. However, we are also mindful of our obligation to protect sensitive sources and methods. Our goal is to strike that delicate balance, one that enables us to maintain the public's trust while preserving those capabilities that are vital to the support of our service personnel.
Erica, he went on to say, quote, "We're not aware of any adversary that is capable of flying an aircraft without any discernible means of propulsion." And that really sums it up. These objects, they don't have any rotors, they don't have any engines that we can see. So basically, they said at this hearing today, we don't know what these things are, but we're going to take them seriously and we're going to study them. And that's quite interesting, I think.
Yeah, it is definitely interesting. And, you know, as we've said before, nobody's assuming that they're aliens. But when you see something like that, you want to know what's behind it and you know, for the purposes of security, right?
Absolutely. It's a national defense issue. Hopefully we get some answers soon, Erica.
All right. And lastly, there's no shaking off this class. And Ontario University is launching a course that's based on a pop star, Richard.
You can enroll in a course. In fact, I'm going to enroll you in this course, Erica. It's a Taylor Swift course that Queen's University is going to start offering starting this fall.
The truth is out there. UFO music. UFOs are finally having their moment. In Congress, that is. In mid-May, for the first time in more than 50 years, a congressional hearing was held to address UFOs, or unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs as they are now known.
For too long, the stigma associated with UAPs has gotten in the way of good intelligence analysis. Pilots avoided reporting or were laughed at when they did. DoD officials relegated the issue to the back room or swept it under the rug entirely, fearful of a skeptical national security community. Today, we know better. UAPs are unexplained, it's true, but they are real. They need to be investigated, and many threats they pose need to be mitigated.
Now, Congress's openness to talk about flying objects with no known or proven origin has increased exponentially in recent years. That increased interest and a ramped up belief that UAPs pose a potential national security threat began in earnest in April 2020 when the Pentagon released not one, not two, but 3 short videos documenting unidentified aerial phenomenon. As CNN wrote about that release, quote, "The videos show what appear to be unidentified flying objects rapidly moving while recorded by infrared cameras. 2 of the videos contain service members reacting in awe at how quickly the objects are moving. One voice speculates that it could be a drone," end quote. Then, last summer, the U.S. intelligence community issued an unclassified report to Congress on UAPs that, among other things, detailed 144 unidentified aerial phenomena, sightings, or incidents that were documented by military aviators between 2004 and 2021. Now, that report also included these lines, quote, "In 18 incidents described in 21 reports, observers reported unusual UAP movement patterns or flight characteristics. Some UAP appeared to remain stationary in winds aloft, move against the wind, maneuver abruptly, or move at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion," end quote. Which, whoa, I mean, huh? X-Files? That UAPs are now being taken seriously by Congress would be of considerable gratification to the late Nevada Democratic Senator Harry Reid, who for a very long time was a lone voice in Congress pushing the importance of studying this phenomenon more closely. So Reid advocated for the creation of the secretive Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP, which was housed within the Department of Defense. In a 2017 profile of that program, the New York Times wrote this, quote, "The Defense Department has never before acknowledged the existence of the program, which it says it shut down in 2012. But its backers say that, while the Pentagon ended funding for the effort at that time, the program remains in existence. For the past 5 years, they say, officials with the program have continued to investigate episodes brought to them by service members while also carrying out their other Defense Department duties," end quote. Now, in 2019, Reid defended the $22 million he had earmarked for ATIP over his career, saying this,
"You know that China's doing it. We know that Russia, which is led by someone who was head of the KGB, you know they're doing it, and so we better take a look at it too." We got a volume of research that was done and said, put it out to bid, and $22 million worth of research. And it was very interesting because it showed that not 2 people, 4 people, 6 people, 20 people, but hundreds and hundreds of people have seen these things, sometimes all at the same time.
Reid was blunt about his own interest.
I personally don't know if there exists little green men other places. I kind of doubt that, but I do believe that the information we have indicates that we should do a lot more study.
Now, Reid's fascination with the possibility of alien life and the existence of UFOs, UAPs, dates back decades and is directly tied to a wealthy Nevadan named Robert Bigelow. All right, stay with me. Bigelow's father, as well as several other wealthy businessmen, were killed in a plane crash in the 1960s. His grandparents were convinced a UFO had something to do with it, and so Bigelow, as he got older and he got wealthier, held conferences on the subject of UFOs and the possibility of extraterrestrial life. Harry Reid attended one of those seminars, and as he told New York Magazine in 2018, quote, "It was really fascinating, quite frankly, because there were people trying to figure out what all this aerial phenomenon was. Bigelow knew I was interested," end quote. And the two men stayed in touch, and eventually Reid, who became a senator, decided to do something about their mutual interest. As Reid recounted, quote, "I said, well, if you were me, what would you say to people in power in the United States Senate who have huge control over the spending of defense money?" And here's what Bigelow said. "What I will do is prepare something for you that anyone can look at that wants to. It's strictly science." He put it in scientific language, what the study should consist of, end quote. Reid then consulted with 2 longtime friends, Democratic Senator Daniel Inouye of Hawaii and Republican Senator Ted Stevens of Alaska, who agreed to add funds for the research into the yearly appropriations bill. And voila, UFO research. What Reid began 15 years ago has blossomed big time. While there are no future hearings on the books yet, it's hard to see Congress getting less interested in the study of UFOs anytime soon. And that is the point. We make New Point episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. Check them all out.
Since the early 2000s, we have seen an increasing number of unauthorized and or unidentified aircraft or objects in military-controlled training areas and training ranges and other designated airspace. Reports of sightings are frequent and continuing. We attribute this increase in reporting to a number of factors, including...
Richard Southern joins us to chat about some of the day's most interesting stories.
Since the early 2000s, we have seen an increasing number of unauthorized and or unidentified aircraft or objects in military-controlled training areas and training ranges and other designated airspace. Reports of sightings are frequent and continuing. We attribute this increase in reporting to a number of factors, including our work to destigmatize reporting, an increase in the number of new systems such as quadcopters and unmanned aerial systems that are in our airspace, identification of what we can classify as clutter, mylar balloons and other types of air trash, and improvements in the capabilities of our various sensors to detect things in our airspace. Almost 2 years ago, in August of 2020, Deputy Secretary of Defense Nordquist directed the establishment of the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force within the Department of the Navy. The UAP Task Force was built on the foundation of the Navy's initial efforts to respond to the reports from our aviators on unidentified objects observed in our training ranges. What you see here is aircraft that is operating in a U.S. Navy training range that has observed spherical object in that area, and as they fly by it, they take a video. You see it looks reflective in this video, somewhat reflective, and it quickly passes by the cockpit of the aircraft.
Is this one of the phenomena that we can't explain?
I do not have an explanation for what this specific object is. But I would caution, I would simply say that there are a number of events in which we do not have an explanation, and there are a small handful in which there are flight characteristics or signature management that we can't explain with the data that we have.
And if you're able to answer this in this setting, are we aware of any foreign adversary capable of moving objects without any discernible means of propulsion?
I think I would, without discernible means of propulsion, I would say that we're not aware of any adversary that can move an object without discernible means of propulsion.
It may be the largest mass UFO sighting ever witnessed over America.
Another one just showed up.
Was it a military craft?
The eyewitnesses aren't buying the explanation.
Or a centuries-old pattern?
It looks like a saucer with fire.
Multiple eyewitnesses, including the governor, said that this thing was from another world.
The team gets the answers. UFO Hunters. Next, only on History. This is case number 97202. Arizona Lights. something about this area that attracts these objects. Pat meets Jeff Woolwine, a UFO researcher at the foot of the White Tank Mountains. These hills are riddled with petroglyphs, rock art carved into the landscape primarily by the Hohokam, a Native American people who lived here from 200 BCE to 1400 CE and then mysteriously disappeared.
Clearly, the Hohokam were seeing things in the sky as we're seeing now, strange objects, strange lights, if you will. They didn't have video cameras back then. They had stone boulders to record something significant, something to remember in history. They wanted to copy this down so people would understand what had happened here.
Pat and Jeff hiked to the spot where strange petroglyphs have been found. Among the petroglyphs is an image Jeff believes to be significant.
You'll notice this interesting line here. It has a block here, a block here, a block here, and a line. In today's world, what we like to call them is barbells.
Barbell-shaped UFOs, like this one videotaped over Phoenix on January 24, 2005, are well known to modern researchers. It's possible that local tribespeople were inspired to record their own sightings on these very rocks nearly a millennium ago.
And when you say barbell, you mean a barbell-shaped UFO?
Barbell-shaped UFO.
The Valley landmark could be the key to deciphering mysteries in the sky.
South Mountain has been a chalkboard of UFO sightings and reports for thousands of years.
All right, 10 years ago, the Phoenix Lights captured world attention, of course, and opinions are still varied. Just put that down right there. Are still varied on what exactly they were. But a number of people believe that the objects seen in the sky that night have been with us for centuries. Beverly shows us records that some of Arizona's earliest residents left behind.
These UFOs are out here, man, and I want to find them.
Perhaps no one spends as much time on skyward mysteries as Jeff Woolwine.
But when these lights come on, it's like somebody with a switch on a wall. Boop! Here we are.
The Phoenix man has hours and hours of videotaped airborne objects. He's convinced they're connected in some way to South Mountain.
South Mountain has been a chalkboard of UFO sightings and reports for thousands of years. When you look at these petroglyphs, you have to look at the whole landscape.
Woolwine takes people on tours of the petroglyphs here, pointing out rock etchings that he says look like things he's videotaped in the sky. And Jeremy Fox believes
there's definitely certain shapes on these rocks that look similar to UFOs. I think we're in a very important spot in the UFO world.
Jeff Woolwine, the first person to do this. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Woolwine's passion gets him noticed. He's been interviewed dozens of times. The Cutting Edge TV show tapes in Tucson and airs in 10 cities around the country. Host Jim Rogers says,
I think he's as honest as the day is long.
He describes his guests as top-notch, credible, and says Woolwine is one of the good guys.
He's giving DVDs away to people to open their hearts and minds to this stuff. His heart is in this. He's not in this for profit.
Woolwine's tours are free too, and you're free to believe or not.
Whether you believe in UFOs or not, there is something here. And they were here a long time ago. And their sightings is recorded on the mountain.
Hello, welcome back to another Petroglyphs in the Sky UFO show. How's everybody doing today? Make sure all the mics are working, all the music has stopped. Glad you guys are here with us. How are you guys doing? The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. I am your host, Jeff Woolwine. Glad you guys are here tonight. And so we're going to talk about the UAPs, UFOs that the government is, now coming out and talking about after I don't know, what is it, like 50, 60 years or so, maybe longer, but they're finally coming back, admitting that in the last 20 years, these UFOs, these UFOs have been constantly coming back. There's more and more coming, like I was saying, back in 2005. And so, yeah. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to show some UFO videos. We're going to talk about a little bit on what's going on, what's here in Phoenix, and things like that. So let's get on with the some commercials here. Let me talk about Haunted Encounter Adventures. This is another YouTube channel and Facebook page. If you guys like paranormal stuff, ghost hunts, things like that, check us out. My wife and I do ghost adventures on Haunted Encounter Adventures. There's a lot of great investigations there. I'm sure you guys will love it. It's real neat. We go into the history and background of these haunted places. And yeah, it's really neat. It's really fun. Check it out. Haunted Encounter Adventures. Please subscribe to that YouTube channel. Check us out on Facebook. And, help us out. Subscribe, share, and stop by Facebook, man. Say hi to us and drop us your paranormal links. Okay. The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky, Landscape for the Spirits. True stories, myths, legends, and UFOs over Phoenix. Now, so I am a resident here in Phoenix. Guess we're gonna start back over again on this live broadcast in the middle of the night, where everything and anything can go wrong, and it has. But we will edit that out. But anyway, so I was born and raised in Phoenix. Been seeing these things in the sky ever since I was a kid. That's what what made me go on a hunt, on a quest to find out exactly what was going on here. And I love archaeology. I've been an amateur archaeologist at least 10 years before I became a professional ufologist. And so I could tell when something is man-made, something is not natural. I'm very good at stuff like that. And I'm always up to date with archaeology. And, I got to a point where I was just going like everywhere, and I was seeing these objects in the sky. And so I had to figure out what was going on. And I remember seeing a newscast in the beginning of the summer of 2004, where these lights were captured by the news crew in a helicopter on the west side of Phoenix. That is where the original 1997 lights took place at, is on the west side of South Mountain. Between South Mountain and the Australia Mountains. The Australia is named for, is a Spanish name meaning star, so Star Mountain, right? So it's appropriate. These lights are hanging around over those mountains. We'll get into that a little later on the show. So in my investigations on UFOs and watching the newscasts and seeing other people making the news, filming these objects in the skies, filming the Phoenix Lights, this and that, I kind of figured that the east side was more of a hot spot in Phoenix than the west side. Yes, the lights hang out on the west side of South Mountain, but more on the east side of South Mountain. And, watching, what was going on as far as the news broadcasts and contacting other people who are filming these things, they're catching this stuff on the east side. And so in the beginning of 2004, the summer of that year, I moved to the east side to try to hunt these things down. Now, it didn't take long. I knew pretty much the direction to look towards, southwest from Mesa, Arizona. That's a city just a little outside of Phoenix. So it's like neighbors to Phoenix, Arizona. We got Phoenix, Tempe, and Mesa. And so I'm over here on the far east of Mesa, and it didn't take me long. I saw these lights, right? And they appear in front of us a few miles out, and they're going west. Where are they going? They're going towards South Mountain. So I followed them. I followed these lights as much as I could to get a better view of what was going on, because these lights are heading towards the mountain, man. You know, so every night I went to Mesa Community College, and they had a set of bleachers. And I climbed these bleachers, and I could see the whole city over the tree lines. You know, it was a perfect view of the skyline, and that was perfect to do some sky watching. So every night I'd go out there, and we'd hunt for these lights. And these lights were right directly in front of us a few miles out. Always in always in the roughly the same spot. And it was kind of cool because these lights would just appear in the sky. And they didn't make any noise, they didn't make any shadows. They're slowly going towards this one area. And as they got to that area, they disappeared. And then 2 more, 3 more would show up on the east side. And they would slowly move towards this spot. And you could barely see them moving, you know, because when I took it home, took the video home, and I replayed it and I sped it up, boy, you could see them. They're moving, man. They're going to that spot. Later, I found out that spot where they were stopping at and hanging over was an electrical power plant that's bored down into the fault line. Those of you who are familiar with Phoenix, Arizona, out there on Ray Road, on the east side of South Mountain, there's a major electrical power plant out there. These lights were hanging right over that power plant in the summer of 2004. And what are they doing over that power plant? They're absorbing the energy. There's a lot of people that say, well, why do these UFOs have lights? Well, I think it has a lot to do with the energy that they're absorbing. In my studies and investigation, I learned that South Mountain was a major hotspot for thousands of years for these beings. This mountain attracts these beings. I'm going a little ahead of myself here. So these lights are hanging over the power plant. So I made some news reports. I did at least like 5 newscasts, and the end result we all know is we're all seeing flares. Well, that was crazy, dude, because these lights were right in the city. And yes, there were airplanes hanging around, but they weren't dropping these flares out, right? They weren't you didn't see anything dropping these, making these lights. These lights would just magically appear in the sky. No smoke, no fire. Now, flares, they drift apart. They're illumination flares. You can see the smoke. They light up everything. They're very small. They don't last that long. They certainly don't stay in formation of a triangle more than, a couple seconds? And they're not stationary. They don't stay in the sky. Gravity, dude, they're going to fall, and they do. Yes, there were airplanes around. And watching these things, it was interesting, too, because these lights would appear, and these airplanes, these white Cessna airplanes, right? I have a point to all this. These white Cessna airplanes are hanging around a couple thousand feet up. They're waiting for the lights also. And when these lights appeared above that power plant, these airplanes would come down after them. This is in 2004, all right? So somebody knew these lights were there. They didn't know, the people in the airplanes didn't know I was there yet until after I made the news. But my point was, when these lights show up, these airplanes would zoom in after them. Now I'm thinking to myself, wow, they're here to check out the lights also. They want to get a better look, right? They're somebody else knows these things are here and they want to get a look at them, you know, just like what I'm doing. You know, I followed the lights to the spot. I followed the lights to the mountain. I believe the lights showed me where to go because I never saw them way the heck over there again. I saw them like right in my point of view, right in front of me, and they were going towards South Mountain. So I followed them. I ended up at the college there, and then I noticed that these airplanes were zooming in on these lights. And so I thought that they were there to, you know, get video, to investigate them. But the more and more this was going on, the more I understood that they weren't there investigating them. They were there to get them out of there. Because when these lights would show up and these airplanes would zoom in after them, there was 2 of them every night. There was 2 white airplanes every night that would wait for these lights to hang over that power plant. And then the airplanes would zoom in after them. And then as soon as the airplanes got within, you know, half a mile, the lights would disappear. Airplanes would come in and circle that area, right? They'd circle that area. And then they would go back up and wait. And then the whole process started over again. The lights would come back. And here come the airplanes. So my point is, somebody knew that they were watching them. Somebody knew that they were here. After I made the news showed me up there on Mesa Community College, shooting these lights. That's when it drew the attention that somebody else was watching these lights. Now these airplanes are watching me now. They would watch them. They knew where I lived, and they would wait for me. I used to ride my bike to the college, and what did these airplanes do? These airplanes were hanging over my apartment complex, follow me, and watch me set up my tripod, set up my camera, getting ready to watch these lights over the power plant. And sometimes those airplanes would get so close to me, I could see the pilot looking back at me. Somebody knew that these lights were here. They knew. And they were watching them a lot longer than I have. So the end result was they're seeing flares. Now, in between all of that, remember how I told you I love archaeology and I'm always up to date on archaeology? I saw this news, this TV show on the public access channel on Channel 8. And it had a Native American up there on South Mountain talking about petroglyphs. So, and this is 2004, mind you, right? And the Phoenix lights, the big lights, happened in 97, okay? So we have all these many years, right? And still no leads, no trying to figure out what these lights are. Government saying flares, you know, people are saying balloons, whatever it is, but nobody's, you know, this like 10 years later, right? 2004 now. And I see a Native American shaman who works at one of the Indian museums in downtown Phoenix, all right? And he's up there talking about petroglyphs. And one of the persons that was with him says, well, that stick figure man looks like he's looking up something above his head. Dave Morris was his name. He works at the Pueblo Indian Art Museum in downtown Phoenix. And he turned around and he said, yes, that's part of our interpretations, is that our ancestors saw and recorded things in the sky. Oh, what? Wait, what? What did you just say? Okay, are you serious, dude? I couldn't believe that. I just could not believe what I was hearing. We have strange lights in the sky, right? And now we have strange markings on the mountains of Phoenix, Arizona. Oh my God, dude, there's got to be a connection. There just has to be, right? I saw that program right before I started hunting the lights down in 2004. This was right before I was right in the middle of moving out there and chasing these lights down. like I said, nothing is coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. All right. How is it that I saw this program and saw the petroglyphs? How is it that, I'm out there hunting these lights, and now all of a sudden the lights are showing me where to go. I love archaeology. I love history. And now I've got these things in the sky showing me where to go. And so now I'm out there, and now I'm watching them. And then so we make the news, and now the news is saying we're seeing flares. And I'm like, dude, it's just crazy. The lights are right here, So I was like, you know what? This is okay. I'm going to the mountain, right? They're pointing to the mountain. They were moving towards south. I'm going to the mountain, man. So in 2005, I moved to South Mountain on the east side, about 1.5 miles away from South Mountain. And I got a perfect place, dude. I got a 2nd-story apartment. The window facing the mountain. Come on now. It all fell into place. Everything was just falling into my lap, dude. Nothing is coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. And now I'm watching this mountain. And I'm waiting for these things, because that's what, like, when you study about UFOs, when you study about these things, and you look at some of these ancient texts, right? It's talking about mountains. You can't get away from it. Mountains are the key. It's the source. The mountains. These things are following the mountain. They're going to the mountain. So am I. I'm going there. Didn't take long, maybe a week or two. This thing came out of the sky. This is in January of 2005. This thing came out of the sky, went across the mountain, disappeared in the mountain. Now, I'm still thinking crafts and technology, right? Because that's what everybody is saying, is that these things are spaceships and technology, stuff like that. So that's what I'm thinking. So I go out there the next day to find out what's going on, because I'm looking for like a crop circle. I'm looking for some kind of evidence that a spaceship or a craft went down on South Mountain, because I saw it. I videotaped it. I'm going. So I go out there, and what do I find? I find a boulder with a stick figure man looking up at an object that I had filmed the day before. No evidence of a crop circle or a spaceship or anything like that. Just spirals and a stick figure guy looking up at something that I filmed yesterday. And this was carved, over 1,000 years ago? How is that possible? Then it dawned on me, wait a minute, maybe I should call Dave. So I got a hold of him. I was like, dude, I saw you on TV. Can you go out there and teach me the petroglyphs? And teach me the way of the holocoms? Well, we went up there and we spent about 2.5, maybe 3 hours up there on South Mountain. And he taught me everything there was on spirals, on the lizard people, on the giants, and all this crazy stuff. Talking about spirals and how these spirals are symbols for doorways. When the spirals are going clockwise, it's a doorway in. When a spiral is going counterclockwise, it's a doorway out. Now, most of the time, these spirals are touching a crack, or they're going into a crack of the stone, or the crack of the boulder on where they're carved at. He says that's the emergence points. That is the doorway, the opening to the underworld. He says when the spiral ends up, there's a vortex in the sky. A vortex. I was like, a vortex? Yeah, dude, a vortex? Really? Yeah, there's a vortex in the sky. And he's not talking about spaceships or crafts or little gray guys running around the desert. He's talking about spirits of the earth and sky, right? Well, I sat by South Mountain for about 3 years. And I captured some amazing stuff. And the more and more I hiked on South Mountain, the more and more I got to know the landscape. I understood the rock art. I understood, what these things are. I came to the conclusion, in the beginning of like, after seeing them, I'm like, wait a minute, dude, this is not crafts, what I'm seeing here, what I'm recording, what I'm witnessing, what the petroglyphs are talking about. These aren't spaceships. These are something alive. These are like, they're alive. I don't know how else to explain it. They're entities. They're creatures. They're not biological. No, they change. They morph. They shapeshift. That's what these I can't say the word. Native Americans have been telling us all these years. They shapeshift, right? And they are. That's what they're doing. And when I'm looking at these lights on a regular basis, I must have got at least 150, maybe 200 sightings in 2004 of the Phoenix Lights. And I got some great videos of that stuff. And as the years progressed, I just kept getting more good, especially I got some awesome photographs of these lights. The best ever of the Phoenix Lights ever I've captured. I soon realized that, these lights aren't crafts. This is not a spaceship here. It's not technology we're dealing with here. We see 5 lights out there. We're looking at 5 living creatures, 5 living entities. And what are they doing? Why are they hanging around the mountain? Because the mountain was created by a fault line. Fault lines generate energy. That's exactly the reason why these beings, these UAPs now, if you want to call them that, are hanging around these hot spots where energy is being gathered at, is being created at, is naturally forming at. I've been saying this ever since 2005. And it's really interesting, too, because I always talk about this. When you search my name on the internet, I'm like all over the place. I've been doing this for many, many years. I don't care if nobody wants to say, I don't know who Jeff Woolwine is. Bullcrap. They know who I am. They know my research. I've been doing this for many years. And I was on the UFO Hunter show. I did the pilot for the Ancient Aliens TV series. And so all my research, especially when I matched the petroglyphs to the UFOs in the sky, to the Phoenix Lights, that's a whole new subject on the Phoenix Lights, and that nobody was talking about ever since 1997. So, yeah, dude, they know who I am, right? They might not want to admit it, but a lot of these cable shows and Skywatchers or whoever they want to be are using a lot of my information, and they failed to talk about where they got it at. And Skinwalker Ranch is one of them. I've been talking about this energy source ever since I discovered it over there on South Mountain in 2005. I wrote an article about it in UFO magazine. It's in my book here. I talk about it. And so when Skinwalker Ranch came out, the first season, episode 4, they were saying if there was any energy in the sky. Now, I'm sure everybody knows who Tesla is, right? So Tesla was grabbing this energy and harnessing this energy from the sky. So we know there's energy up there. As a matter of fact, Art Bell, you remember Art Bell, the radio show? He had this antenna, okay? He had a real high, about a few hundred feet high, and he was getting electricity. He was getting shocked every time he was plugging in his radio system to do his radio show. He kept talking about it. He was getting, there's electricity in the sky. Tesla found this, harnessed it. So yeah, there's energy up there. And especially in certain places, where these fault lines where energy gathers at. So Skinwalker Ranch wanted to do this test, and so they put these sensors in these bottle rockets and these rockets, and they shot them up, and just to see if there's any energy. And lo and behold, there's a light in the sky, right? And so when they get their data back, of course, it's going to say, yeah, there's a lot of energy up there. And they're saying, well, I wonder if that craft was making that energy. Man, they still haven't get it yet. They still don't get it yet. first of all, it's not a craft. And second of all, it's not making the energy. It's there for the energy. That's why it's lit up. It's lit up. I'm telling you, dude, if you were gonna be sucking up a bunch of energy, you would glow too, right? I mean, just like the fireflies, just like the lightning bugs. Okay, so they were created to light up, man. That's how these beings are. These beings they light up. That's them. That's how they are. That's the reason why these beings have lights. Okay, not to see in space. Okay, not Steven Spielberg's, Close Encounters of the Third Kind spaceship. No, man. They're there because that's how they were created. They were created out of energy or plasma. But that's how they are. They're another life form. Just as the oceanographers are finding new species of life below the ocean, this is a new species of life that has always been here. And they're not from outer space. They're from inner space. These things have always been here. They're not from Mars. They're not from another planet. This is their planet also. This is their home. They have been here all along, all the time. And when mankind goes to war with each other, we see them a lot. Okay, especially like World War II. The pilots are chasing around these Foo Fighters. Right? They're waiting. Every time things start to escalate on Earth, we see a lot of them. All right? That's why we're seeing a lot of them today. Look what's going on in the world today. Everything is getting all messed up. So no wonder we're seeing these things in the sky, right? No wonder after 20 years, because I was watching these things in 2004. And then I discovered the day stuff in 5, and I noticed that these things were alive, and they're not spaceships. They're living creatures. And I'm trying to tell, when I was doing the UFO Hunter show in 2007, when it finally aired, they're like, Jeff, you can't say these things are creatures. You can't say that these things are living beings, are light beings. Even though I proved it, and the petroglyphs talk about this, they didn't want this information they didn't want me to say this information. They said, if you're going to talk about these things, Pat Oscar told me, he goes, you have to say crafts, man. He goes, the public is not ready for this. And I'm like, dude, the public better get ready for it because it's here. That's what's here. I don't know if they just didn't want to give me credit because when you watch that episode, they go, well, it's Jeff's personal interpretation. That's what they were saying back in 2007. And now look what's going on. Like all these other cable shows are talking about the petroglyphs and the UFO connection. Dude, I started that, right? I proved that. There's a lot of theories out there that these things are creatures and they're light beings, but nobody ever proved it, right? I proved it. I proved it with the sightings that I've got over the mountain. I proved it with these mountains, with the petroglyphs out there that are the exact same things that I was recording that are carved out there over 1,000 years ago, even 2,000 years ago. Come on now. But yet the public isn't ready for this, dude. All right, well, the public better get ready. And over the years, I'm getting a lot of people, dude, I filmed a flying snake. I filmed the exact same diamond. I filmed the exact same spider-looking thing. I've been hearing it, everyone, and I'm so thankful of that. You guys are telling me that you're filming this because it's just great. I knew this was going to happen, and here we are 20 years later, right? Now the government's finally talking. No wonder. I knew this was going to happen. Didn't I say this was going to happen years ago? Have I not been talking about this ever since 2005, right? Those of you who have been following me all these years, I haven't changed the stories. It's all the same, dude. And I knew this was going to happen, but are they going to tell us what's here? No. No, they're not. They know what's here. Okay? All right, so let's get the book out of the way before I go on. So, The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky, Landscape for the Spirits. Find it on eBay. So this is full colors of my book. It's a nonprofit book. And so there, right there you can see the formation of the 1997 Phoenix Lights right there on the cover. Any of you who know what the Phoenix Lights look like back then, you know that this is the exact same formation, and this was carved on South Mountain over 1,000 years ago. Pick your copy up today. It talks about the real history of Phoenix, right? Not what the archaeologist wants you to learn, wants you to believe, but the proven facts. All right, the proven evidence of what's really on South Mountain. The tombs, the gold tombs left by the Mayans and the Hohokam, the sacrificing altars, the depictions of giants, evidence of giants being here in Phoenix, Arizona. Colored photographs, okay? The first park ranger, all right? You can find my website, all right, on my YouTube channel. All my YouTube links have my website there, and you can see what Charles Holbrook, the first park ranger from the 1930s, talks about South Mountain. He talks about the gold, talks about the giants, talks about the spirits of the earth and the sky. It's all there. All this information has been there, and it has been covered up. In my opinion, after Holbrook died, because he told people about what was up there. He chased a lot of people away from South Mountain from digging up the gold that's up there. And after he died in the late 1940s, they buried all his information. They didn't want people knowing that there's gold on South Mountain. They didn't want people knowing that there's petroglyphs up there talking about things in the sky. They didn't want people knowing about the tombs, about the giants, about the sacrificing altars. All of this is covered up now. It's tucked away. They don't talk about it no more. They put it in a file in the Phoenix Library for 80 years. And doing my investigations on the Phoenix Lights, on the history of Phoenix, on South Mountain, you know, what better way to go to the library and see what they had? And that's how I found all this information. The first year I'm out there on South Mountain, like I said, I'm a very good archaeologist. I can spot something a mile away. I have found 3 to 4 tombs on South Mountain. I have found many, many sacrificing altars oriented towards the east. Those of you who know what I'm talking about understand this, all right? There's so much proof. The petroglyphs are not only Hohokam petroglyphs, but Mayan petroglyphs also. The Mayans are here in the Valley of the Sun. So this whole year, I'm finding all this evidence. I'm taking photographs. I'm bringing the evidence down from the mountain. I'm bringing these holy photographs down from the mountain. I'm bringing the evidence down from the mountain to show the public what's here, what's really here, what the Phoenix Lights really is. And I want people to understand that this information has always been here, but it's been covered up. All right? And this is why I say, even though the government is talking about these, they're just humoring us. Okay? They know what's here. All right? I mean, like I said before, the airplanes were following the lights, right? And now when I get to the mountain, I'm not only dealing with airplanes hanging around South Mountain, but now black helicopters. And once the black helicopters found out where I was living at, after I was making the news, and the news came to my apartment and showed my apartment window and blah, 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 and gave my location on where it was at, now the helicopters are following me now. Now the helicopters are watching me now up on South Mountain. They were watching. Are they messing around with me? Are they trying to intimidate me? No. Are they breaking into my apartment, stealing my evidence? No. You know, I was so paranoid giving my stuff over to News Channel 3 that I made Scott Davis, the producer of Channel 3, draw out a contract because they wanted to see. I'm videotaping on a high 8 videotape. This is 2005, right? So, I mean, the money that I had and the technology that was available with the money that I had wasn't very good. So I was recording these beings off a high 8 video camera. I mean, it's not good quality compared to today's, you know, but I did the best I could. And every time I would make the news, showing the petroglyphs, showing the connection with the petroglyphs to the Phoenix Lights, to the things in the sky, I would have to hand over my copies, my original tapes, to the news so they could have it analyzed, to make sure I'm not hoaxing it, make sure I'm not faking it. Matter of fact, Scott Davis, he came to my house, came into my apartment one day unannounced, just to see if I had a computer in my apartment, and I didn't. I didn't have no computers in my apartment at that time. I had my camera out the window on a tripod and a chair, sitting in my kitchen window watching South Mountain for 3 years. That's what I was doing. And then if I wasn't there, I was on the mountain. I was understanding the petroglyphs. I was doing my history. I was in the field. I was doing field work. Before Ancient Aliens TV show and UFO Hunter show was even a thought, I was out there doing the exact same stuff before they even was on the air. I was the one that started all this stuff. I was out there understanding the petroglyphs, understanding the past, digging up the information in the public library, finding the gold tombs, finding the first park ranger, Charles Holbrook. Oh my God, like I said before, everything happens for a reason. I mean, come on now, right? So that's what's in this book, man. 15 years of research went into this book. And then another 5 years trying to find a publisher. We won't get into that. But yeah, finally it's published. Find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and my favorite is eBay. So the cheapest one out there is on eBay. I think you can find it for like $27. It's a nonprofit book. I don't make any money from this. And that's not what it's all about. It's not about fortune and fame, Dr. Jones. It's about getting this information, this credible information, not hearsay. No, we think something went over, or we think this and we think that, and blah. No, this is credible stuff. This is 15 years of research, folks. My knees are a testimony of hiking up there on the mountain. All right, I have horrible knees now because that mountain has literally beat the heck out of me. There were times when I was crawling on my hands and knees down from that mountain because I was so sore. All right, that's how bad it got. Okay, I was up there finding all this stuff, and bringing all this information down to you. That's what it's all about. All right, so like I said before, right? So the government now is coming out and saying, oh, well, we don't know what they are, and but they knew. They knew what was going on. And I want to show you something real quick. Okay, so a lot of you have been following me and just recognize this sighting here. Okay, so this is a UFO sighting that I took in 2005, and it matches the petroglyphs here. All right, so what we're seeing, let me get my arrow. So look at this here, all right? Where's my arrow at? Oh my goodness. There we go. Okay. All right, so look at this here, all right? We have this type of diamond looking thing here. Let's go ahead and play it. Now, if you look a little bit here, you can kind of see some legs, right? We have a guy over here. Let's go ahead and play this a little bit further. All right. So we have these barbell looking UFOs here. We have a man looking up, okay? And we have this UAP or entity with a dot in the middle, right? Those of you who have been following my stuff knows I talk about that dot a lot. And he's got this line and he's going straight up over the boulder there, over the rock, okay? This is facing towards the morning sunrise of the equinox. So the sun will align right above this line. The sun will come up behind this rock and will come up right up this way, right? And that's what this is a solstice marker on South Mountain. It's facing towards the sunrise. I have a coyote, right? And where is he looking? The coyote is looking at the sun, looking at the sunrise. So is the guy. He's looking up at the sunrise. But right now, we want to concentrate on this being here. Now look at the legs. Don't forget that. Okay? So let's go ahead and play this. Now, like I said before, the video quality isn't that good. But what I did is I enhanced a still photograph, a still pic from the video, and then I enhanced it so you can get a better look on what this being is, because I mean this is a Hi8 2005 technology here, right? And I'm watching this thing about 1.5 miles away, right? Now let's watch this. Here this thing comes down out of the sky, right? And it's changing. Look at that. You see that dot there? See if I can stop it. It's pretty hard to do with this, but I'll use the picture. You see the dot in the middle? You see the legs? And it's kind of like a diamond shape here. The exact same petroglyph we just saw. Let's watch what this creature does. So this being is coming down. And there's South Mountain right there in the background. All right. Here it goes. It's coming down. Now as it is, it's changing. Right. So now it's getting past my window sill now. Now I got off the camera and I positioned the camera. Now look at it. Now look what it looks like now. You see that? As it goes through the tree line. Look at that. Okay? And now look. See, it went right down in this area. So memorize all this stuff here. Memorize the background. Let me back it up a little bit here. Let's look at the background here. This is important. Look at it. This is the mountain, right? There's the object. Okay? So concentrate on this area. I'll get to the point here in a minute. Look at this area here as this object is going down. Okay? As it goes through the trees, right? Now look at that thing. Isn't that crazy? This is in 2005. Now, it disappears in the trees. It disappears down on the ground. Over there on the mountain there. Now, here's a petroglyph of the exact same looking creature, right? And look at the legs here. You see that? It pretty much looks like what we just saw coming down. Now, a few minutes later, look who comes to investigate this. There's the background. There's South Mountain. Okay. We just saw this. And look where this helicopter is going. So don't tell me that they don't know that these things are here. Don't tell me that they just now started, investigating these things. No, they've been doing it way before I came along. They knew about these things way before I exposed them. Way before I exposed all of this. They knew what was going on here. Here comes the helicopter. He's going right in that area where this UAP went down at on South Mountain in Phoenix, Arizona. There's the helicopter. So don't go telling me that they don't know. They do know, right? Now this is where it gets interesting. Here we go. So remember how I had to change because of my the window seal? Look, I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm moving the camera to get a better view. And the helicopter is scanning the birds. And look. Look what he's doing. He's going right over to that spot where this UOP went down at. Oh my God, on South. See, look at that. Don't tell me that they don't know what's out there. All right, what's going on South Mountain? Okay, look at that. He is going right over that area where that thing went down at. Look at that. See that? They know. This government, whoever you want to call them, whatever they are, they know, right? They know what's here. They've been watching these things for a very, very long time. Probably a lot more since, after the 1997 lights happened. I think the surveillance became more active after the 1997 event, and they know that the mountain is a hot spot. They know what goes on here at South Mountain. They know. I mean, look what they did to South. They made South Mountain a government park. Why would you do that? Why not make South Mountain, or why not make the White Tank Mountains a government park? Why not make the Superstitions a government park? Why not make a mountain a government park? I mean, why pick on South? What is so special about South Mountain that you were going to make this a government land where nobody can go over there and dig stuff up, right, and take it home? Why? Why did they do that? Because that's exactly what they don't want you to do. They don't want you to go out there on South Mountain and dig up the gold that's buried from the mines and the mines in the Holcomb. They don't want you going out finding this evidence like I have done. I didn't do any digging out there, but I found the evidence. I'm the messenger here. I'm not touching any of that stuff, dude. I'm bringing this evidence down for someone else to explore and check out. I'm just telling you what's here, right? What I discovered. It's the second chapter of this story is for somebody else to actually, and I think what we really need to do, we really need to get the ASU students involved in this, the students of archaeology, to go up on South Mountain and open up at least one tomb. But that's the reason why they made this a government park, is because they know what's here. They know what this mountain attracts. They know how holy and how special this mountain is. They know that these beings have been visiting this mountain for thousands of years. Don't tell me that they don't. There's so much evidence that they know. And this is one proof positive here. Look what this helicopter is doing. Have you been watching this thing zooming past the mountain as I've been, talking? Have you been seeing what this helicopter has been doing? All right. They know what's here. They know what these beings are doing there. They know these beings are going down into the mountain. Not landing on the mountain, but going down into the mountain. Now, I think he's taken off now. I think he's cruising. Yeah, he's done. He's done investigating. Is that just crazy? And so that's why these beings are attracted not only to South Mountain, but a lot of all these other energy sources around the globe, around the earth. It's because when the sun gets in the right position of these fault lines, it opens up these doorways. It causes like a fusion effect. And basically watching South Mountain for all these years, I learned that the first, equinox and the solstice, and the Holcombs and the Mayans out here on the mountains, they erected these summer solstice and equinox markers, these light and shadow effects, to document, these sky beings, because they were sky watchers also. They've done all the homework for us. They've done all of this work for us. All we have to do now is go up there and understand what they're talking about. And once you do, then you can predict when these beings will return to the mountain, because it's a cycle, right? It's a recurring cycle that's been going on for thousands of years. This is a secret. I stumbled upon a secret the first few months. The first year I was there, I noticed that it was the mountain was hot for these beings, real early. right? And then some of these months they were here, and then some of the months they were gone, maybe 1, maybe 2. But then after the equinox or after the solstice, then they came back, all right? And then the equinox would happen again, or the autumn equinox, and they would disappear, and then the sun would get back into position. So I learned over the 3-year period that it was a cycle what was going on South Mountain. Now, basically, that was the hard part, right? So I don't believe that the cycle is like this. Is the same cycle all over the world. I think it's different. They follow the sun over the fault lines, right? So like January, February, March, April, May, June, July, and August. That's like the hot times that these things are at South Mountain, right? But it doesn't mean that it's the hot times for, let's say, Florida, or let's say Paris, right? So the hot times, the hot months are different because the sun is in another position of the globe, right? That's what's going on with the changes of the seasons. The sun is changing in the sky. And when it does, it aligns over these fault lines. So just because the hot spots or the hot months are January, February, March, April, May over here on the west coast of the United States doesn't mean that it's the same on the east coast. It doesn't mean. So that's the trick, right? You can't give up. If you're going to go look for these things, and you found a holy mountain with spirals and doorways and what the archaeologists likes to call anthropomorphs, these shape-shifting beings. So you can't give up. That is a mountain. That's a sacred mountain. That's a holy mountain. That's the mountain where these beings will be there. Right? But you can't give up. You have to watch. You have to understand the cycle. Once you understand this pattern, then you'll be able to know when to go out there and when to watch them. But the hard part is figuring out that cycle, and that's what happened to me. Nobody taught me any of this. I learned all of this on my own, right? Simply watching, being a sky watcher, watching the mountain for so many years, going out there on the mountain, discovering all this stuff, understanding the petroglyphs, calling a Native American shaman to go out there and teach me the petroglyphs. I'm not saying this is my interpretation here. All right? This information has always been here. All right, I am not making this stuff up. This stuff has always been here. All right, it hasn't gone away for thousands of years. It's been covered up, yeah, and that's why we don't know about this stuff. Is because like I said before, after Holbrook died and he was telling people about the Mayan gold up there on the mountains, after he died, they buried all his information, made it a government park, and stuck it in a folder in the library for 80 years. Until I accidentally stumbled across it. I opened up that folder and boom, all that stuff that I found a year prior was hitting me in the face, telling me that I'm right. It was Charles Holbrook's ghost or spirit leading me the way, telling me where to go, giving me the answers that I was looking for. It was crazy. How can I explain this? I can't, but there it is. There's the proof. It's all there. This is what I did. This is what I discovered. And here we go. And now we have, and now the government wants to say, well, all their flares. And now because they're coming out and they're saying, well, now we're going to investigate them. Of course, because you have to. Because there's more and more incoming. Like I said in 2005 when I was explaining to this at the UFO Hunter show, I said, look, man, the public better get ready for this because it is here. And more is coming. I know that first year, it was cool. Second year, wow, there's more. Third year, oh my God, there's a lot more now, and then I can imagine what the hell it's looking like now. I haven't been there in a few years. Right, but I can just imagine someone who's watching that mountain on a regular basis, they're seeing a lot of activity. And they're going to see these helicopters. They're going to see these airplanes. Right? If you just pay attention, if you have the time, and you have the dedication, and if you have the patience, that's what it is too. A lot of people don't. They expect to go out there on the mountain and see a UFO. That's not how it works, okay? You need a lot of dedication to this. You need a lot of patience. Don't give up. They are here. Look at what I've proven. Look at what I filmed out there for so many years. Yes, there is something going on there. And the government knows about it. Okay. So. That's just crazy, right? There's the evidence, folks. They know what's up. So they say in their little investigations, like all these videos I've been watching on YouTube and stuff, and the government coming out and talking about these things, they say, I don't quote, they are openness and they are open and accountability to the American people. So they're telling us that they're going to be open to us now about these things, that these things are real. They're finally admitting that these things are real. Oh, really? Why? Why are you doing that? It's because, well, everybody is seeing them now, right? Just like what I predicted in 2005. Yeah, we're going to start seeing more. We are. And that's why they're finally coming out, because they can't use the cover-up stories anymore. But I have a feeling, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, the new cover-ups. Because I see what's going on. I see what's happening here. We're going to talk about this. I see what they're doing now. Yeah, they're going to come out and say there's something here just to humor us. And they're going to say, well, we don't know what it is. They know. That's why they're not telling us. Right? Because what happened to the Hohokam people, right? So if the petroglyphs out there are talking about these UFOs, and Hohokam is an Indian name, is a Pima name for the people who are gone, the people who are missing, the people who got taken away, because the Hohokam people in Phoenix, Arizona were the first Native Americans here. And they were here for 1,000 years. They were masters of the canal system. They lived supposedly in peace for 1,000 years, and all of a sudden they disappeared. And the archaeologist wants us to believe, well, they simply migrated somewhere else because of drought. Okay, well, where did they go? If that was the case, we will find evidence on where they went. When you and I move, we take our belongings with us, but yet these beings didn't, right? Or these people didn't. They left everything behind and simply vanished off the face of the earth. Not only this tribe here in Phoenix, but also at the same time, other tribes around the world came up missing also. It just didn't happen here in Phoenix. It happened all around the world. And yet the archaeologist wants us to believe, well, they simply migrated because of drought. But when you dig into when you understand the petroglyphs, the petroglyphs are prehistoric photographs. They didn't have cameras or video cameras back then to tell their stories on the way they lived and what was special and what was sacred on the mountains. They carved their photographs. That's what these petroglyphs are. They're prehistoric photographs at the spots, at the locations on where the event took place at. This is the reason why we find petroglyphs on one area of the mountain or one section of the mountain, but we don't see any petroglyphs on the other section of the mountain. It's because nothing happened over there. It happened over here. The petroglyph is a prehistoric testimony of history of what happened right there where you stand and where you're looking at it. It happened right there. So if a petroglyph of a stick figure man is looking up at a circle in the sky, he's telling you, look, I saw a UFO in the sky right here. This is why we're not supposed to touch the petroglyphs, paint over the petroglyphs, remove the petroglyphs, because you're removing history. You're erasing history, and that's what the government did back in the early, right before World War II. The CCC came down, the Civil Conservation Corps came down to South Mountain, and they blew up petroglyphs. They made ramadas. All right, they made it harder for us to find the tombs. They started, doing mining there, and making ramadas and picnic tables, and they wanted to make it a family-oriented park. And I'm sorry if we have petroglyphs right in front of the kiddos of sacrifice to demonic creatures in the sky. That's just not very family oriented. So we need to remove these petroglyphs. And they were huge walls, and the only way to do that is they blew them up. And you can find the devastation of the CCC work of them blowing up these boulders with petroglyphs. There's a mountain up there on Central Okay, to the left, when you're on Central and you're going into the mountain, going towards, and you're in South Mountain Park, and you look up on the left, you see a bunch of debris, a bunch of rubble up there, up on the top left. Now, when you go on the other side, I climbed up on that hill. When I went up on that hill, it's a wall. I mean, I'm telling you, it's like a giant wall. It's a wall that a giant could have made because it's stone bricks, right? Big boulders that are cut and chiseled and placed on top of each other. It's a very huge wall. And the amount of dirt, that hill, that's all man-made. The Holocoms, they filled all that wall up, all right? And on the other side of that wall were tons of petroglyphs, all right, facing the city, all right? And they couldn't have that. And it was so high up there on the hill that they couldn't go up there with sandblasters, so they just used dynamite. And they blew the heck out of that. And all that debris is still there because when World War II hit, they all went to war and never came back. So all their rusty cans, their food cans are there. The boulders are there. If you look sometimes, so you can find their tools are still there from the early 1940s. And so, yeah, they were up there blowing up. They were concealing, they were hiding what was here. Because once you understand the petroglyphs will tell you the story on where some of these tombs are. I don't know if these people realize this or not, but they did. They did a pretty good job on blowing up the glyphs, trying to erase the story. But the higher you get, the more information you get. You know, when you climb up on the mountain more, when you get deep in the mountain like I've been, then you'll see more because they didn't reach that part. They didn't figure the public is going to go that deep into the mountain, but I did, and I saw the petroglyphs, and I understand that there was something buried here, this and that. But they blew it up. They covered it all up. So they know, and so they are open to the possibilities to the public that they're going to tell us what's here. However, they say, we're also mindful of obligations to protect sensitive sources and methods. Sensitive sources and methods. They don't want to tell us that. And what is that? What is a sensitive source and methods? It's because the source are the mountains, are these energy spots. That's the sources. And the method is that these things are going into the doorways, just like what the Native Americans are saying, just like what the Mayans are saying in Mexico. They're going down into the underworld. They're going down into that fault line. They're absorbing the energy. We are also mindful of obligations to protect the sensitive sources and methods. So they're not going to tell us about all that. You have to find all this out by your own. And stuff like this, what I'm talking to you about, that I found years ago. Because they know. You just saw that helicopter, and I saw a lot of helicopters, right, by South Mountain, and showing me their doorways on where these things come and go from. It's weird, because, like, sometimes they would know. They would know when these things would like, be at the mountain. Some of these airplanes would have, like, these black domes on the bottom. And I think it was, like, some kind of infrared technology. And this is just a theory, just from me watching the airplanes and the helicopter activity out there and the UFO activity. It all was just kind of making like sense to me. So I saw this airplane. He flew over me real low, and I saw this black dome on his belly. And I'm thinking that it was like some kind of infrared night vision camera. And I think when the energy starts to build up in a spot on South Mountain, the doorway is starting to open, it's going to attract one of these beings to go into that emergence point. And sometimes those helicopters would hit those doorways before these beings would even approach, would even be there. The helicopter was hanging around that area, or the airplane was circling and waiting, and as soon as the airplane would leave, or the helicopter would leave, out comes one, from that same spot, or one would come down and go into the mountain right there. They're going into the mountain. These things are not, it's not technology. It's not green men from Mars. I mean, all that technology and stuff and spaceships, that's all gravy. Sure, I'm open to that. I've seen some things that could resemble a craft. But I think what the majority of the public is witnessing right now are living beings, living creatures. They shapeshift, right? They change shape. All these people, they see that cigar out there, they think it's a craft. No, that's a living being. It's a living creature. You see a bunch of lights out there, you think it's a spaceship, or you think those are crafts. No, these are living beings. Each light is the being. And they're highly intelligent. They know who's watching, and they know who's not watching. This is how they're getting away with being in our skies for so long without being detected. They don't make any shadows. They don't make any noise. You won't even know that they're there unless you look up and notice them. And then when you do, because you've been brainwashed for the last 80 years on spaceships and crafts and technologies and people writing books about stuff that they've never really seen before, you're looking for spaceships. You're looking for crafts. And so when you finally see a real creature in the sky, your mind automatically assumes that it's got to be balloons, it's got to be flares, it's got to be something that you can understand, because you were meant to believe that you're looking for technology here. You're looking for spaceships. You're looking for little gray guys living in people's closets and stuff like that, right? And this is the cover-up here. This is what they want you to believe. This is what's going. This is the new cover-up here. The public is more easier to understand technology and spacecrafts than they are from something that might be considered supernatural or an entity or creatures, or some of these scrolls are talking about fallen angels and Nephilim and all these things. Okay, the public the public will not understand that. They understand technology. They understand spaceships. They understand green men making spaceships. That's what we understand, because we can relate, because that's what we do. We make spaceships, right? We have technology. So we expect that the other life form to do the same. And that's not what's going on here. These beings that are here in our skies today are living creatures. They're living beings. They're not biological. They're not from outer space. They're from inner space. Excuse me for 1 second. Yeah, I can't. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I guess the live went off. But we're still recording. So those of you who have been watching our live show, now you can see the replay on recording. So the live show must have froze. I don't know what happened, but you know, I'm recording this. So okay. So they're not spaceships. They're living beings. They're living creatures. Now, they are saying now, so the next thing they're saying, we are not aware of any adversaries that are capable of any aircraft of means of propulsion. Now, so that means they don't know how these things are flying. They don't understand how these things are flying. Now, let me show you some stuff here. I filmed this creature in 2005. All right? Now, let's watch this creature. This thing came down out of the sky, right? Let's back it up. Let's start. Okay, here we go. Look at this thing coming down. All right, now it's going right past my window. All right, it's shape shifting too. If you notice, it's kind of changing shape, then it goes back into its form. Now it's going past my window. Now I repositioned myself. So this thing zigzagged. All right, so it fell out of the sky, came down, went past my window, and as I'm positioning the camera, I'm taking my eyes off the camera and I'm watching it. It goes over some palm trees that was there, and it zigzagged in front of me, and then it shot over South Mountain. All right? That's when I started filming it as it was going over South Mountain. Here it comes again. So it's coming down out of the sky. It's coming down from the east. It's coming past my window now. It's leveling off. Now it's kind of switching over on itself. Now I'm off the camera. I'm looking at it. It's zigzagging in front of me. Now it's heading towards over South Mountain. So I jump back on the camera. And now I'm filming again. And, you know, this is 2005, okay? Now, how is this thing flying, right? Let's look at something here. Now, this is with a filter on. Now watch this. You will see the energy off this thing as it harnesses the energy and is able to fly. Look at what it's doing here. You see that? You see how it's you see their energy rays coming off of it? You see that? That is how they are getting around in our skies. They are using the energy. See if I can pause it. You see that ray of energy? You see that? That is how they're able to get around. Is they're harnessing that energy and using it as a propulsion device. They're shooting off energy in this direction and that direction to level off and to cruise through the sky. You see that? Look at that. You see that? That is energy. This is how these things are flying. Let's look at it again. Here it comes. Look at all that energy around that thing. You see that? This is what their propulsion is. You see how it maneuvers? See how it's able to adjust that energy? Look at that. Look at that. That is energy, folks. This is how these beings are flying in our skies. You see that? How they can control that? Look at that. See, now look. So now we have energy rays here, and we have energy rays here. You see that? Look at that. This is how they're using the propulsion to get around. This is their propulsion. Is they're using this energy to thrust themselves through the air. See that? This is how they get along, get along, little doggy. This is how they're able to fly in our skies. Pretty incredible, huh? They're able to harness that energy and shape it, and use it in such a way to hold themselves in place as they fly through the sky. Isn't that amazing? That is how they get around. This is how they're using up the energy. Not only to feed on, but also to absorb this energy to make themselves hover in the sky, fly through the sky. Absolutely. This, in my opinion, in my years of studies, this is what's going on, folks. Look at that. Let's watch it again. Look at this. See that? Look how it shapes it moves that energy. Look how it moves that energy to stay in the sky. Look at this. Okay. That is how they get around in the skies, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, you heard it first here, right? They're using the energy to thrust themselves through the skies to, I don't know how you would say it, to thrust, to propulse, to move, to hover, to fly. That's what's going on here. That's how they are able to fly through the sky. Okay, so remember, let's talk about this sighting here. Everybody's like, oh, it's a triangle. It's a triangle. Look at this. Okay, let's talk about this. Now, this is all neat and gravy, isn't it? It's all real cool. It's pretty neat looking. Okay. But in my mind, this is the new cover-up. Now they're saying that, what was it, the Marines or some Army people or somebody filmed this with their infrared, okay? Now, everybody is, used to triangles, right? So the government is preying on this. They're using the triangle theory to say that they are crafts. All right. But look at the blinking. Let's concentrate on this blinking here. Look at the pattern. See the blinking there? Let's stop this for a minute. Let's bring in this. Let's look at this. So if you notice, the blinking has a pattern to it, right? The triangle has a pattern to it. Now, I'm not saying that these lights, these entities, these creatures don't blink, because they do. Some of them do. Not all of them, but some of them do. But when you see a pattern like this in this triangle, you see how it's a pattern? Look at that pattern. That is fishy to me, because let's look at what the aircraft's pattern looks like. The aircraft lights. See the pattern there? Let's study this for a minute. See that? Okay? See how there's a pattern? Blink, 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 blink. See that? It's a pattern. It's not blink, hold, blink, hold, blink, or blink, hold. It's a steady pattern, right? This is how we can tell on normal aircraft in the sky or drones. Now look at this one here. This one here, we have a red and, let me go back to that one. We have a red and a white one going on. That was really quick here. I should have made that one a little bit longer. Here we go. See that? See? Now there's two blinks. See that? See that there? Yeah, see that? See how it's boom, boom, red and white, red and white, red and white. See that? Look at the pattern there. You see that? You see that there? That is an airplane. Airplanes have anti-collision lights on them, so other airplanes can see them at night. So when you see an object in the sky and it's blinking in a pattern, you know that that's man-made. Now let's look at this here. This is one of them blinking lights that you can put on a drone. Look at the pattern there. You see that? See the pattern? Now let's look at the triangle. Let's make a comparison. You see where I'm getting at this? That triangle is either a drone or a kite, and it has this LED blinking lights on it. And it was probably staged, right, by the government. They want us to believe about, crafts. Everybody's, thinking TR-3Bs and triangles. So this is, in my opinion, this is the new cover-up. They don't want to tell us that these things are creatures or entities or Nephilim or the cause of, because I was talking about how the holocron disappeared. I lost my thought. But Charles Holbrook writes on what happened to the Holocron Indians. I'm going back to that because I lost my thought. Sorry about that. I do that. There's so much information. So Charles Holbrook talks about how that the Mayans and the Holocrons were on South Mountain, and they worshiped these beings as gods because they didn't know how to live in the desert. They didn't know how to live here. And actually, it wasn't a desert at that time. It was a tropical-like landscape. And so these beings came down out of the sky. They came up from the ground, and they taught the people here the secret ways, the secret incantations on which man was not supposed to know about. In return, they worship these things as gods. They perform sacrifice to the Phoenix Lights, to these Quetzalcoatls, these flying snakes, to the orbs, to the diamonds, to the black orbs, to the white orbs. They worship these things as gods. So this is what Charles Holbrook learned from the Native Americans at that time. Also, the petroglyphs talk about the exact same thing, on how these beings came down out of the sky and took the Hohokam people away. Right? This is the whole reason why they're not going to tell you on what these beings are. Because these things that we see in the skies today are the reasons that some of these tribes around the world disappeared. This is where the evidence is suggesting. This is the cover-up here of the world. That these things are real. These things were always been here. This is their planet also. Every time mankind needs them, these beings are here to fool and mislead and to make man worship them as gods, and even sometimes to enslave man. All right, that's where the cover up. That's where the cover up is going with all of this. This is the reason why they're covering all this up. They will never tell you what these things are because this led to the whole people's downfall. These things, because they stopped the sacrifice, that's when the tropical-like landscape of Phoenix, Arizona became dirt, became dried up. There's evidence of lots of waterfalls on the mountains. There's evidence of water all over this valley. But because man's blood stopped pouring down the sacred rock, the sacred stone, that's what upsetted these spirits. That's what upsetted the gods. And so they came down and they took most of these people away. The rest of them hid in caves. They saw what was going on. They were afraid, and they stashed. And when it was all over with, they knew that that Phoenix, Arizona was a cursed land, and they vowed never to come into this land ever again. They cursed this land. They knew that if they were going to go back and live in this Valley of the Sun, that they would have to go back to war with the spirits of the earth and sky. So they buried the gold in the South Mountain, in the mountains around Phoenix, and they vowed never to come back here again, and they went back to Mexico. That is the cover up here in Phoenix. That is the real story of the Hohokam people. The Pimas named the Hohokams because they consider themselves ancestors to the Hohokams. I feel that the Tohono O'odham tribe is more of an ancestor to the Hohokam, but the Pimas are the people who named them, and they named them the people who got taken away, the people who are missing. And as I explained in the beginning of the show, not only did it happen here in Phoenix, but it also happened around the globe, around the earth. These tribes worship these beings in the sky as gods, and in return led to their downfall. This is the cover up here. They will not tell you what is really here. So now now to cover all this up, because everyone's seeing them, the pilots in the sky, you can't hide this no more because everybody's got a phone. Everybody has a camera on their phone. So they can't hide this no more. So they're coming out and they're just gonna humor us and say, okay, yeah, there's a lot going on here. We know that there's something here, right? But we're open-minded to extraterrestrials, but they're gonna make you believe that these things are from another world. And they will perform hoaxes as this hoax right here, all right, to mislead the public in thinking that these are spaceships, that these are crafts. That is what's going on here. Don't be fooled. When you see a blinking light like this, doing it in a pattern, that is an aircraft. That is man-made. That's an airplane. That's a drone. That's a helicopter. If it's blinking in a pattern, it's man-made. It's not extraterrestrial. It's not a real UFO. So this is the new cover-up. The new cover-up is spaceships, crafts, because that's what the public can understand. You see? They're not going to come out and tell you these are creatures. If they actually told you that there's flying serpents coming and going from South Mountain, that there's orbs, that these orbs that are out there is what led to the downfall of the Hohokam, is what took these people away, how many people would actually still be living in Phoenix? All right? You can't get that. You can't tell the people that. You can't say, you know what, hey guys, there's those Phoenix lights out there that we're seeing on the mountains. They were responsible for the disappearance of the first people who lived here. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? They can't tell you that. But that's what happened. That's what the evidence suggests. That's what the petroglyphs talk about, the prehistoric photographs. That's what the original Native Americans are saying. And how are they saying that? Because they were taught from generation upon generation upon generation on what happened to their people back in the day. There's a lot of Native Americans that I've talked to that some of them won't even talk to me about this because it's a type of taboo subject. In a way, we're not supposed to know about these things. And so why is so many, we talked about it at the beginning of the show, why is so many starting to show up now? Because look at some of these Hopi prophecies. Look at some of the Native Americans' folklore. They say that we're in the third, fourth, and fifth world, or whatever. We're about ready to enter the fifth world, right? Each world is different. When the world changes, because the world was, gets devastated by flood, by water, by ice, by fire, whatever it was, the earth changes. Man messed up last time, so it's time to start over. Apparently, man has messed up 3 or 4 times now, and now we're about ready to enter the fifth world. Some prophecies say we're ready to enter the fourth world. If this is true, this is obviously, we could be having, if this war in Ukraine doesn't stop, if it escalates, we could have a World War III here. And that could be the reason why all these UAPs, all these UFOs, all these sightings are taking place now and has been gathering up to this point. Nobody knows exactly when this is going to happen. Not even these beings. But they know that it's getting close. They know the prophecies. They've seen the prophecies. They know what to look for. And we're in those prophecies right now. We're in these end of days. They know this. And so they're waiting. They're waiting for mankind to need them once again. This is the big cover-up. This is what the government isn't going to tell you about. They will never tell you about this. They're going to mislead you into spaceships and crafts and aliens. They're not going to tell you these are supernatural creatures, that these are possibly fallen angels, that these are Nephilim, that this is the stuff that we find in the Bible. Because it's interesting too, because like the first few chapters of Genesis 6, when it talks about the Nephilim ascending to Mount Hermon, and the people there worshiping these things as gods. Mount Hermon wasn't the only mountain that these things fell upon. These beings fell upon many mountains around the earth. And South Mountain was one of them. And so is the government going to come out and tell you this? No. They're going to cover it up somehow. They're going to, just like what they always do, right? They start talking about it, and then all of a sudden they stop. Because they get too close, people will start asking more questions. The stuff that they are presenting isn't going to make sense, and that's what's going to happen next. They're going to try to convince you that these are spaceships and crafts and aliens, but everybody's going to start saying, wait a minute, it doesn't look like aliens, it doesn't look like spaceships. Just like what I did back in 2005. Everybody was telling me it's spaceships and crafts, and this craft went over Phoenix and blah, blah. I was there that night. I didn't see anything go over Phoenix. I was outside. I didn't see nothing. But they want you to believe that that's part of the problem here. They are part of the problem. They are part of the disinformation. They can't prove what they are saying. That's part of the problem. If you're going to come out and make a fantastic claim that some spaceship going 8 miles an hour, the size of a football field, going over the city of Phoenix, and not one person can take a photograph of this, not one person can make a video of this, but yet a handful of people can film lights way the hell on the other side of South Mountain, on the way far west of the valley, but yet the same handful of people can't film a craft going over the city of Phoenix, going 8 miles an hour, the size of a football field, maybe even longer. Come on now, this doesn't make sense. That is the cover-up. That is the cover-up. Now they're trying to say that those lights over there were flares. You see where I'm going with this? They're trying to tell you that the real stuff is flares, and what you really need to believe is spaceships and crafts. They're trying to mislead you here. That's not what's going. That's not what's here. They are part of the problem. This is part of the problem. Don't believe in that stuff. If someone's going to say that, you got to have proof. I can back up everything I've been saying here. Let's move on because we're totally running out of time. Now, I am not saying that these UAPs, UFOs, whatever, these creatures, these entities, these fallen angels do not blink, because they do. They do blink, and let's look on how they do. Let's study this. Here's a real one. And look how it's blinking. You see that? It's not in a pattern. It's not in an aircraft pattern. It's not repetitious. It's flashing. But it's not in a pattern. It's ironic. It's going crazy. You see that? It doesn't have a steady blink, a steady strobe. You see that? This is how we can tell that this is a real UAP or UFO or creature and not something that's blinking repetitiously. See that? This is what we need to be looking for. Not strobes in a pattern, but stuff that is not in a pattern, all right? It seems the light seems to be going around each other. It's not in a, it doesn't do the same pattern. See that? This is what we need to be looking for. Okay, so before I take up any more of your time, I just want to say thank you guys for watching. Make sure you go off and check out the book, The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky, Landscape for the Spirits, True Stories, Myths, Legends, and UFOs over Phoenix. And thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys learned something. And if you have any questions, contact me. Make sure you follow me on my YouTube channel. Find me on Facebook, Jeff Woolwine, The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. Find us on our Facebook page, The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. And thank you guys so much. And hopefully what I said to you makes sense. Please let me know if it did. If you have any questions. Or if you just want to talk about UFOs, hit me up and let's talk about it. Okay, thank you guys so much for your time, and we will see you guys next time. Bye-bye. See ya.